for this current year, right? And so essentially all the department heads had to go back and start from zero, and then really, determine what the actual budget requirements were for the upcoming year, and look at, budget in a different light than they had in past years. And I think there were absolutely some lessons learned as a result of that exercise. Some of the budgets were much harder to start as a zero-based budget model than others, so definitely some lessons learned. Ultimately, at the conclusion of the Select Board's process, the Select Board did deliver a budget to the Budget Committee on October 12th of last year for a total of $7,338,399. And it's important to note that this was under the tax cap by $22,000. The town does have a tax cap in place, which limits the amount from a percentage perspective that the increase can occur year over year over year. And so that's something that the Budget Committee as well as the Selectmen monitor very closely. And to have the budget under the tax cap this year was very much appreciated. Some challenges with this current year's budget from the town side that we had to deal with were obviously COVID, right, and the increased costs from PPE and other materials that resulted in unanticipated spending throughout last year. And some of that's carrying into this current year's budget as we plan for additional PPE required given the COVID situation that we're still all living in. Additionally, last year in March, the town voted to approve communications equipment, right? And the communications equipment is at the cost of $150,000 per year, which is new spending in this current budget year. And so with that, that took a good chunk of the money that we had to stay underneath the tax cap side. To hit this number and to hit the tax cap, the Select Board authorized the following pre-purchases, advanced purchases on October 16th from the 2020 operating budget. And really what that means was there was surplus funds anticipated in light of COVID, in light of the shutdowns, in light of zero spending policies that were put in place to really limit the spending and monitor the spending in light of COVID. And with that, it created a surplus, anticipated surplus at the end of 2020. From that budget, some needs that were originally planned for this next year, this next fiscal year, were pre-purchased or pre-allocated by the Select Board. And that includes IT equipment for $6,620. There was the police department, there was some equipment replacement for $8,700. There was an advanced purchase of Chromebooks, which is part of a technology cycle upgrade for $1,800. There was some police department portable radios that were advanced purchase for $13,400. I know Chief Sargent is on the line with us this evening. Chief Sargent has done a fantastic job, as well as Chief Freitzel have done a fantastic job managing their budgets. And with that, there was some savings that Chief Sargent was able to locate, and with that was able to purchase a couple of administration vehicles that were needed for the department for $62,835. And then on the fire department side, there was some thermal imaging cameras that were pre-purchased, as well as some radios, mobile and portable radio purchased for $20,000. Really, when you add all that up, the Select Board made the decision to pre-purchase $166,634 worth of equipment and other items. And then in addition to that, the Board of Selectmen also adjusted health and insurance benefits across the budget for a positive increase of $72,810. With the changes in the budget, the total town budget, really before the Budget Committee even reviewed or took a shot at looking at potential reduction areas, the total town budget was $7,244,577. Just a few other highlights to mention. The Budget Committee voted on the town budget over 2 meetings. If you'd like to go back and review those meetings, you're welcome to do so. There was a meeting on October 22nd as well as October 29th, in which the committee reviewed every budget, every department, and voted specific reduction areas, as well as voted on the bottom line. On October 22nd, the Budget Committee reduced various budget lines by a total of $34,686, and on the coming slide, I have the details of what's made up in that reduction. And then also on October 29th, various budget lines were reduced for $14,006. With that, the total revised town budget landed at $7,195,888. On October 22nd, the Budget Committee reduced various budget lines by a total of $34,686 as mentioned. This fell across various departments, including what I'm sharing with you on my screen here. Accounting, there was a small reduction of $1,800, conservation, a small reduction, IT, some legal expenses for $8,000 were reduced. More to come on legal expenses because there's actually a separate warrant article in light of the pension cost increases that I know have been heavily commented on across the WhatsApp page and social media. So more to come on that in a little bit, as well as some other reductions, including Parks and Rec, Planning Board, Road Maintenance, Sanitation Administration, Tax Collection, Town Clerk, Town Meeting, as well as zoning. And there's also, when the Budget Committee meets a little bit later this evening, there's actually a request on zoning to reconsider some monies that were reduced from that budget. And so the Budget Committee will be talking about that a little bit later tonight. On October 29th, the Budget Committee reduced various budget lines by a total of $14,006. And the reductions span across the 6 departments as I've listed here: Code, Fire, General Government Facilities, Mosquito, Police Administration, as well as Police Support. So the final town summary here, the town budget, when all reductions were made, landed at $7,203,793. It's important to note that this represents a 1.85% increase over the current 2020 approved budget. The budget remains at $33,059 underneath the tax cap. And if all warrant articles pass, more to come on the warrant articles here momentarily, the budget will be $1 under the tax cap. And the way this actually works is the select board has made the decision that if we're over the tax cap, there's enough funds in our unassigned fund balance to make up that difference and to reduce that so it's $1 under the tax cap. Okay. Moving into town warrant articles, I will read each article for those that are listening in, so bear with me here. The first article that I'm going to read this evening is Article 4, which is the operating budget. Important to note that the article numbers may change as we finalize these articles, although I do think at this point they're pretty locked, but you know, there's always an opportunity to change between now and when the ballots are printed. So Article 4, operating budget. Shall the town vote to raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth in the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by the vote of the first session for the purposes set forth therein, totaling $7,203,793. That will be the operating budget. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $7,356,332, which is clearly over the operating budget, which is the same as last year with certain adjustments required by previous action of the town of Litchfield or by law, where the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 4013 to take up the issue of a revised operating budget. Estimated 2021 tax rate impact, should this pass, is 9 cents per thousand. This was recommended by the Board of Selectmen 400, and this is pending recommendation by the Budget Committee, which we'll be voting on later this evening. Okay, moving into Article 5, which is the police contract. Shall the town vote to approve the cost items for wage and related costs that have been included in the collective bargaining agreement reached between the town of Litchfield and Council 93 of the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, which provides for the following increases in wage and benefits at the current staffing levels to further raise and appropriate the sum of $11,803 for the current fiscal year. Such sum representing the additional costs attributable to the increase in salaries and benefits required by the new agreement over those that will be paid at current staffing levels. Estimated 2021 tax rate impact is 1 cent. It's clearly laid out the cost increases between year 1, year 2, and year 3. And this was recommended by the Board of Selectmen 400 and recommended by the Budget Committee at our last meeting last week by a vote of 810. All right, moving into Article 6. Article 6 is Human Services and Health Agencies. Shall the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $21,255 to support human services and health agencies providing services to the town of Litchfield? This is an article that we've seen for the past couple of years. Estimated 2021 tax rate impact is 2 cents, recommended by the board by 400, and also recommended by the Budget Committee 810. Road improvements, Article 7. Shall the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $100,000 for the purpose of road improvement projects? This sum is to come from the unassigned fund balance and no amount to be raised from new taxation. Estimated 2021 tax rate impact is $0. This was recommended by the board 400, as well as recommended by the Budget Committee 810. Also important to note that road improvements were highlighted as an important need within the Capital Improvement Planning Committee documents that were finalized last year. And so this, again, allows us to stay on top of anticipated road repairs and maintenance according to a defined schedule, which is within the Capital Improvement Planning Committee plan itself. Article 8, plow truck purchase. Shall the town vote to raise and appropriate $100,000 to purchase a plow truck with equipment for the highway department? This sum is to come from the unassigned fund balance and no amount to be raised from new taxation. The estimated 2021 tax rate impact is also $0. This is recommended unanimously by the Board of Selectmen 400, as well as the Budget Committee 720. And this is in addition to the plow truck that was that passed in March of last year, of which we've just recently taken delivery of. Article 9, Property Reevaluation Expendable Trust Fund. Shall the town vote to establish a Property Reevaluation Expendable Trust Fund per RSA 3119A for the purposes of funding future property reevaluations and to raise and appropriate $25,000 to put in the fund? Further, to name the Board of Selectmen as agents to expend from said fund. The sum is to come from the unassigned fund balance and no amount to be raised from new taxation. Estimated 2021 tax rate impact is $0. This was recommended by the board 400, as well as the Budget Committee 810. In this article, the spirit of this article is really to level fund the costs associated to the reevaluation fees that the town spends. So there's not a spike in one particular year, it level funds it. Article 10, Pennachuck East. Shall the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $50,000 for legal counsel, consultants, witnesses, technical reviews, and other expenses related to the proposed Pennachuck East utility water rate increase case filed with the NHPUC, Public Utilities Commission? The special warrant article will be a non-lapsing appropriation per RSA 32.7 and will not lapse until said rate case is completed or by December 31st, 2023, whichever is sooner. This sum to come from the unassigned fund balance and no amount to be raised from new taxation. The estimated 2021 tax rate is also $0, recommended by the Board of Selectmen 300, and this is a warrant article that will be reviewed this evening by the Budget Committee. Okay. Article 11, fire station bond proceeds. Shall the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $23,582 for the purposes of paying a portion of the 2021 fire station bond payment and to authorize the withdrawal of that amount from December 31st, 2020 fund balance for this purpose? This amount will represent the interest earned on bond proceeds that was transferred to the general fund on or before December 31st, 2020. Unanimous recommendation by the board as well as the Budget Committee, 4-0 by the board, 9-0 by the Budget Committee. This is more procedural in nature as we close out the bond associated to the fire station and transfer the remaining interest in that fund so it can come as a part of the operating budget. Town warrant article, Article 12, Fire Facilities Fund. Shall the town vote to discontinue the Fire Facilities Capital Reserve Fund created in 2000? Said funds and accumulated interest to date of withdrawal shall be transferred to the Building Systems Expendable Trust Fund, which was pre-established. Estimated balance is $622. Again, this is procedural in nature and recommended by the board, 400. The Budget Committee per legal counsel, did not vote on Article 12, as well as the following article, Article 13. And Article 13, which is the last article on the town side, and then we'll shift gears into the school. So solar exemption. Shall the town adopt the provisions of RSA 7261 through 64 inclusively, which provide for an optional property tax exemption from the property's assessed value for persons owning real property which is equipped with solar energy systems intended for use at the immediate site. Such property tax exemption shall be in the amount of the assessed value of qualifying solar energy system equipment up to a maximum of $27,000. This exemption shall only be available to property owners who expend funds for the installation of such systems. Therefore, if the property is sold, the new owner shall not be eligible for the exemption. Recommended by the board 310. Okay. That covers it from the town side. Now we're going to get into the school budget, and then after the school budget, we'll move into public input. So shifting gears into the schools, some highlights to kick us off, and then we'll get into the summary, and then warrant articles. Some chairman highlights here. The budget committee joined the school board budget review sessions held on November 5th and November 10th of 2020. Kind of a new process as both the SAU, Dr. Jetty, and the team looked to really streamline the process with the budget committee this past year and to avoid duplication in presenting the materials to the budget committee. And so the joint sessions were essentially alleviated the need to represent materials, and the budget committee was able to sit in on those sessions both on November 5th and November 10th. The budget that was delivered to the budget committee occurred on November 12th, and the amount that was delivered in that budget was $23,126,224. The budget committee reviewed the budget details on November 19th, and then voting on the school budget occurred on December 3rd as well as December 10th. So if you're looking to review those sessions, December 3rd and December 10th is when the voting occurred on the school budget. In short, on December 3rd, the budget committee reduced various budget lines by a total of $85,100. And this is a department or section by section review, function by function, building by building review. And then October 10th, the budget committee reduced various budget lines by a total of $466,218.50. Predominantly that came from salaries and benefits, which is more of a district-wide across the budget line. On December 17th, the budget committee restored $31,500, which was included in the reductions on December 3rd across the three schools. The committee voted in favor to restore that money, and really based upon the principal's presentation to the committee, in which we had a better understanding of where the reductions would occur. The committee felt it was not in the budget committee's purview to reduce that money, and so we did restore it on December 3rd. Additionally, on December 3rd, a $50,000 reduction was also made to attrition, and that's in addition to an attrition reduction that's part of the December 10th reduction. So the school summary. On December 3rd, as mentioned, the budget committee reduced various budget lines by a total of $85,100. And again, some of this money was restored at a later meeting. And that $85,100 really came across through travel and conferences for $25,000. CHS, business education, science and athletics had some reductions. And then there was a CHS bottom line reduction made, an LMS bottom line reduction made, and a GMS bottom line reduction made. And actually, the bottom line reductions are what was restored at a later meeting. Curriculum, conferences, non-union for $4,000 was reduced. An additional conferences reduction of $10,000 was reduced. A minor reduction in supplies of $500, as well as a bottom line reduction in special services for $8,000. On December 10th, the budget committee continued voting and reducing budget lines by a total of $466,218.50. This predominantly occurred through an attrition reduction of $200,000, as well as the budget committee removal of 2 technology integrator positions, which were recommended to be put to warrant and were put to warrant. So you're going to see 2 warrant articles here a little bit later this evening, and the ask for 2 technology integrator positions that were originally budgeted in the operating budget and then subsequently pulled out and put to warrant, so the town has an opportunity to weigh in and vote. There was also a non-union salary pool reduction of $86,000 associated, and then CHS personnel reduction of $7,837. And then on December 17th, as mentioned, the Budget Committee in total reduced an additional $18,500. Part of that was a restoration of the bottom line cuts across GMS, LMS, and CHS, as well as an additional attrition reduction for $50,000. So the net impact on the December 17th evening and voting actions was a reduction of a total of $18,500. And so school summary and the final picture here before we move into warrant articles. For fiscal year 22, the school budget presented to the Budget Committee was $23,126,224, which represented a $455,442 increase over the current approved budget. The Budget Committee reductions totaled $569,818.50. And that leaves us with a budget going into fiscal year 22 of $22,525,606. That's actually a decrease over the current approved budget of 0.6%, or $145,177 compared to the current year. With that, we'll move into the school warrant articles, of which there are 4, pretty streamlined this year from the school. And so Article 1, shall the Litchfield School District vote to raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth in the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by the vote at the first session of the annual school district meeting for the purposes set forth herein, totaling $23,715,016. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $24,194,824, which is the same as last year, with certain adjustments required by previous action of the Litchfield School District or by law, or the school board may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 4013 to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. It's my understanding the school board has not yet adopted or recommended this article, and the Budget Committee did recommend this article last week by a vote of 8-1-0. Okay. Articles 2 and 3 are actually the same articles for 2 IT technology positions, and so they're going to be somewhat redundant in terms of how I read them. They are meant to be taken together, right? The district has identified the need for 2 technology integrators, and therefore there's one article for one position and one article for the second position. So Article 2, shall the Litchfield School District vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $86,200 for the purpose of funding the salary and benefit costs for a full-time district-wide technology integrator position to support one-to-one technology education for students and staff. As mentioned, Article 3 is really the same article, an identical article, because there are 2 positions identified. This article was recommended by the school board 5-0-0, and this article was not recommended by the Budget Committee by a vote of 4-5-0. Okay. Moving into Article 3. Same article again, shall the Litchfield School District vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $86,200 for the purpose of funding the salary and benefits costs for a full-time district-wide technology integrator position to support the one-to-one technology education for students and staff. Same vote, same spread, recommended by the school board 5-0-0, and not recommended by the Budget Committee by a vote of 4-5-0. And then the final warrant article this evening, and then we'll open it up for public input. Article 4, shall the Litchfield School District vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $100,000 to be added to the Capital Improvements Expendable Trust Fund, which was established in 2020 for the purpose of funding the study, planning, and cost of new construction or renovation of existing facilities in the Litchfield School District. This sum is to come from the June 30th unassigned fund balance available for transfer on July 1st of this year with no amount to be raised from taxation. This amount is consistent with the capital plan, the capital improvement plan, which was adopted by the town of Litchfield in September of 2020. This is recommended by the school board 5-0-0, as well as recommended by the budget committee 7-2-0. Okay, with that, I'm going to break from screen share. There we go. I see quite a few people on the WebEx this evening. Thank you again for joining. And with that, I'm going to open it up for public input, please.
As a reminder,
Mr. Burnell, I don't know.
Yeah, as a reminder, if you'd like to participate in public input and kind of approach the virtual microphone, if you join the WebEx via your computer, if you go to the participant panel, hover by your name, you'll see a little picture of a hand. Just click the hand, that'll raise your hand. We'll unmute you as it comes to your turn. If you called in from a telephone, just hit *3, that'll raise your virtual hand. And when it's your turn, I'll unmute your phone and your phone will tell you your phone's being unmuted and you can identify yourself. When you are unmuted, as I said, please identify your name and your address and you can ask your question.
I don't see a hand on mine.
That's because you're unmuted. Go ahead, go ahead, Ralph. Identify yourself and go ahead and ask your question.
This is Ralph Bohm. And I don't
Ralph.
see any way of raising a hand.
Thanks, Ralph. Appreciate you joining tonight. If you could just state your address as well for the minute.
Okay, yeah, just Ralph Bohm, 6 Gibson Drive. The question, yeah, we've seen what the expenses are, but part of the budget process is what's our revenue looking like? And that should be part of this. So has anybody looked at proposed revenue increases and decrease to see, and that's really gonna hit on what it's going to cost us. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Revenue is absolutely part of the budget process. It was thoroughly reviewed by the budget committee on both sides, and it's part of the forms that we fill out. You know, I know we have Town Administrator Brown on the line as well. Troy, do you mind talking to the revenue side from your perspective, please?
Yeah, sure. As Chairman Cutter mentioned, right at the start of the budget preparation, we knew right out of the gate that revenues were going to be a concern. Primarily, the revenues coming from the room and meals tax and the highway block grant. We took a real hard look at our local revenues and made some pretty good conservative estimates. You know, the biggest revenue maker for the town is registering cars. Those continue to be strong even today. So, you know, we put together a conservative estimate for local revenues, but we did reduce state revenues, and in particular, it was the room and meals and the highway block grant funding, because both those funding sources are you know, driven by the state of the economy. And this year, I will share that for the first time, at least in 5 years, since I've been the town administrator, we have not used the unassigned fund balance to help offset the operating budget. But this year, the Board of Selectmen did take the position that we would use the unassigned fund balance to help make up for those anticipated lost revenues. And that's what we've been telling the public for the past years, that, you know, that fund is there to help when, you know, we end up in uncertain times like we're in now.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And I know we also have Mr. Izabicki on the school side, our business administrator. Corey, would you mind just speaking on the school revenues, please?
Sure, Mr. Cutter. So, as always with the state, revenues that come in each year, we're seeing a reduction in those. Those are based on the enrollment numbers that we have in the school district. However, you know, they didn't adjust for the fact that with remote learning, the uncertainty around this year, that we did have students leave the district. They went based on the actual enrollment numbers as of October 1st, which were lower than initially projected. So we are looking at about $190,000 reduction coming from the state this year. With the pandemic over the past couple of years, since March, really, we've kept a close eye on expenditures and tried to find savings where we could. And it opens up opportunities to use the fund balance at year end, which we've done in the past couple of years since I've been here. This is no different. We've identified projects that were in the budget and things that we want to get after that we will as we have in the past, look to address through fund balance at year end and have fund balance to return to taxpayers.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions from the public this evening? I know there was one submitted online that I will read. Let me just get my phone out. I apologize here. All right, and this was submitted by Mr. Jim Norton. So the town looks to the budget committee when voting on the different warrant articles. If the committee support or does not support an article can make a big difference if it is going to pass. At the January 7th meeting, 2 school warrant articles were voted on by the committee. These articles allow the district to hire IT integrators. The funds for these positions were already budgeted from 2 positions the district will be eliminating. The Budget Committee voted 4-5-0 not to support these articles. I do not understand why the Budget Committee cannot invest in our schools. The majority of the Budget Committee continues to vote to cut budgets, vote against teachers' contracts, and vote against warrant articles. This is making it harder and harder to progress as a district. I ask that you start to invest in our schools, return the budget back to what was originally presented, and stop driving our district farther and farther back. And that's Mr. Jim Norton on Woodhawk Way. For the minutes, please.
Mr. Chair, we have Mr. Jetty who'd like to speak.
Okay, please.
Mr. Jetty, go ahead and unmute your phone and ask your question.
Great, thank you, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for being part of this process for us. I would like to come forward tonight and also speak about warrant articles 2 and 3 relative to the tech integrator positions, and ask the Budget Committee to reconsider their vote to not recommend those. Those positions are absolutely essential. Any parents who are here tonight know that we've spent basically close to a year at this point with a variety of remote learning opportunities, and having tech integrators available to support our teachers, to support our students with the online learning that we've been engaged with is just going to be critical. And it's not just critical for the remainder of the pandemic, which hopefully will not last that much longer. But I think that the entire experience that we've had as a district with a significant investment in one-to-one technology is really reframing the way we will work in the future, and the type of access that our students will expect and the standards that our teachers will expect in delivering instruction has been changed by the pandemic to a positive. And having 2 tech integrators available in the district to ensure that we can continue to advance those will be just very, very important to us as a school district. So I would ask again that the committee consider re-voting on that and making the recommendation forward. And I think it's important also that the public understand that the school district had identified other positions that due to shift in enrollment, we did not need any longer. And we also realigned some staffing levels in order to identify the funds to pay for the 2 positions that we were asking. The Budget Committee asked us to move those to a warrant article because they feel strongly that the voters ought to have an opportunity to vote on those. And so it was the Budget Committee then removed the funds from the budget, asked us to place them on the warrant. There were people who indicated in public session that they would support that approach because they felt it was important to have it placed before the voters. And now the vote has come forward to not recommend. And I think that it's a mistake. These are really critical positions for us. And I would ask the Budget Committee to reconsider that vote. The other thing is that our IT director, Jason Pelletier, is on tonight. And I'm going to ask Jason to just do a quick summary for everybody on exactly what a tech integrator is, because I think there could be some misunderstandings about what we're trying to bring forward with this position. And I'd like Jason to just explain exactly how we envision tech integrators being used.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks everybody for having me as well. I'm going to share my screen if that's okay with the Budget Committee and just highlight a couple of pieces just to try to clarify a few things, because sometimes it's easy to see tech integrator, but not everybody knows what that means. Kind of make it a little bit clear cut for the public and for the Budget Committee on exactly what we're asking for.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Dr. Jetty, for for your public input and yielding the time over to Mr. Pelletier. I know we had mentioned that you would like to do that. Great, and you can present. Perfect. Go ahead.
Thank you. So here's a list of what a tech integrator is and isn't, because they kind of border a little bit of what a teacher kind of does, and then also a little bit of what the IT, like a technician, kind of does, but their roles are very specific. And the main role of a tech integrator is to really help teachers grow quicker and help them hit educational targets with technology far faster than teachers doing it on their own. They let teachers focus on educational process and not how a tool works. When teachers are better prepared and supported, they can have a greater impact on our students. And then when our students are more positively impacted and have refined skills that they need when they graduate, the more successful they can be. So a tech integrator is not a teacher, but they are in the classroom, and they are with students, and they are with teachers, and they help support the students in their ability to develop creative solutions. They might work with students one-on-one. They might work in a classroom in a group, or with the entire classroom if there's a new technology tool that needs to be kind of figured out. They haven't used it before, and the tech integrator will help that teacher show and explain how this technology tool works and give them examples on how to use that with the lesson. They will guide the teachers in using the most appropriate technology tools for achieving the desired outcome of their lesson. They'll also work in tandem with the teacher to help create useful, meaningful, purposeful relationships with technology. And really their role is to ingrain technology in the whole fabric of the educational system. So they'll work with IT on the IT side of things and what's capable, but they're also going to work and kind of bring education into the pedagogy of the school. They'll also, when appropriate, if it makes sense, help teachers incorporate technology in lessons that previously didn't contain technology. And then they'll also engage with students and help them see how they can use technology to innovate, to discover, solve problems in new ways, look at things a little bit differently. Also, a tech integrator is not an IT technician, but they will do a lot of training based around technology. So they'll hold PD sessions, professional development sessions for the teachers. They'll also join in on professional learning time with the educators and help them further their technology roadmap and the use of technology in the classroom. As new technology initiatives happen, they'll help train the staff, and they'll also train the students. So it's not just a staff resource. They're also a huge they're a huge student resource. And they'll show them how to integrate technology into the classroom as well. The other thing that's important to mention too, as far as on a monetary side, there is a cost to having the tech integrators, but with them in and training the teachers and using the technology that we have and that we will have in the future, it's a better investment. We're going to leverage that investment that the town allows us to have. So as we get this new tech in, the tech integrator will actually help daily in the classroom with the students and the teachers to use that technology to its fullest. Instead of sometimes in some classrooms, it might not be used just because maybe some people are timid about it or don't know enough about it, so they're not using it. They can help with minor technology support, like collaborating a projector if it's skewed, aligning an interactive board. They can also help connect peripherals or tell the IT department too, like, hey, I troubleshot this, and this, but really this needs to be a ticket and it's a higher level thing. So they can also take a little bit of things off the IT department's plate as far as these little things that to a teacher they might not know, but are actually quick and simple fixes. And then they can also help us test and find adequate applications and websites for students and teachers to use in the classroom. Again, freeing up the time of the teacher, right? Because they're masters of their craft, but they're not necessarily masters of technology. And with the help of the tech integrator, we can help them get there, and we can also free them up to really work on that educational process that they're good at, and what we why we like them in Litchfield to help our students. So I don't know if anybody has any questions about that going forward, but hopefully that also helps clarify what we're looking for.
Thank you, Mr. Pelletier. Appreciate the presentation tonight. Dr. Jetty, anything to wrap up with or add?
No, that was great. I'm happy to help with any questions if there are any that come up. Thank you.
Chairman, I do have a question.
Please, Mr. Taylor.
All right. Dr. Jetty or Mr. Pelletier, is there any way that you could provide a case study showing meaningful, measurable metric that the district is rated by putting in these tech integrators based on another district and their success?
So I guess to answer that, we certainly can find some studies out there about the benefits. I'm positive of that. They have to exist. This is not something that's unique or new in the area. There are plenty of districts that have tech integrators and have had positive gains as a result of those. I'm not sure we would agree necessarily on meaningful metrics, but we can still pull forth some information that will help out with that.
I would just be looking for things such as, how does it improve in terms of, standardized test scores? How does it improve as far as students' grades? How does it improve, post-graduation roles, whether it's in college or in the workforce? There should be some sort of case study that should be able to show that this was done in another district very successfully with things that prove that the school district made a wise investment in these positions.
Yeah, let us see what we can find to help support that case.
There were two other we're still in public comment here, public input. There were two other residents that did email me, which were forwarded to the budget committee. And Michelle, I did forward you these emails as well, so you have them for the records. Thumbs up means you got them. All right. And I will continue reading them. And so one was submitted by Miss Leary on Charles Bancroft Highway on Tuesday, January 12th. And so I'll just summarize or read it to those who are listening in this evening. After hearing parts of the Budget Committee meeting, I'd like to make a statement as a taxpayer to share with the Budget Committee in the community who were addressed last Thursday evening. This would be last Thursday, January 7th. At the end of the meeting, Mr. Jetty made a statement that concerned me very much, so I'd like to clarify the original intent of any office realignment. The effort originated in the GMS office when a member over 30 years of service to the district and I, over 23 years, requested the additional half hour other school offices had. We worked 7.5 hours, others 8. The reason we both requested the 8 hours was because bus dismissal at the elementary level required much attention, and each day we would lose a half hour to 45 minutes to the process of cross-referencing and servicing the task. We found we didn't have adequate time to complete certain necessary tasks, so we approached Mr. Thompson at the time, and he agreed, adding coverage until 4 would be extremely helpful as well. Each time it was brought to the board, it was cut. They ultimately handled it by negotiating a memorandum of understanding between parties, and the staff and I took one for the team and split our hours for coverage instead of acquiring the extra half hour of desk time we had asked for. At no point ever did we request to reduce anyone's administrative assistance hours at GMS or anywhere else. As much as they want to say this is just a position, it is not. It is a person who has made a huge impact on morale, efficiency, and relationships, school and community-wide. Her desk is just as huge as ours, and her full-time position is truly necessary for things to work at GMS. I'm sorry to bother you with such details, and I understand it's not the Budget Committee's place to intervene with how things run, but I needed you to know where this request originated and why I felt it was misrepresented to both you and the community watching. I was co-president of the association until late August when I had stepped down, because of a passing in a family very suddenly and unexpectedly. I see you advocate for the people of Litchfield, both municipal staff and the community, and their well-being. And I know you take your fiscal responsibilities very seriously. Thank you for that. As a taxpayer and an employee, I feel quite confident the district could have financed the request for additional tech positions without hurting one of its own and putting office staff that are already giving their all in a compromised position. Thank you for allowing me to clarify the intent of this original GMS office request. I thought it important that you know. Again, submitted by Mrs. Leary on January 12th. Before moving into the other email received, are there any other public comments for those that are connected in tonight?
This is Ralph Bohm again. I'd like to just to clarify some things. I would like at the deliberative session, we see the revenue items, including the money from the CARES, in other words, the federal government, and how that was used on the town and school. Also, I spent 16 years on the budget committee in the past, and I always looked at it this way. The department heads say, this is what we want. The governing body, the selectmen of the school board say, this is what we need. And the budget committee has the hardest job of saying, this is what we can afford. And we know we have people saying they have to leave town because they can't afford the taxes. So yes, things can get bad. I mean, but the budget committee needs to do a good job in saying, no, we cannot afford this. And I see that both on the town and the school side. There are things we cannot do everything. I'll just end with that.
Thank you, Mr. Bohm. Appreciate the comment. Anyone else connected tonight that has any public input? Okay, let me proceed with reading a note that came in earlier today, actually, from Ms. Dodge over on Heron Drive. I would like this read as public input at the January 14th meeting and hearing. That's a specific request. Dear Mr. Cutter and Budget Committee members, I'm writing to you in regard to the school portion of your meeting on January 7th. I am once again disappointed in the tone that some members of the committee take when discussing school budget items. We have educational professionals running the schools who are more than capable of figuring out the specific needs of the school district each year. The Budget Committee continues to overreach and nitpick the specifics of how money will be spent, despite repeatedly saying that they are only responsible for a bottom line budget. For Articles 2 and 3, Superintendent Jetty did a fantastic job of explaining why tech integrators are vital to the school district, and also how the school board followed the Budget Committee's own guidance to put these positions to warrant article, despite the fact that they could have been covered in the actual budget. This is where I saw outreach by some members of the committee explicitly stating that while they support the decision, they disagree with how the district has reallocated money within the budget to fund these positions. It is not the job of the Budget Committee to decide what the schools need. The educational professionals in the district have identified these positions as much needed and long overdue. I am very concerned that 5 committee members, a majority, voted against tech integrator positions in the 21st century during a pandemic, which results in many students and at various times the entire student body to attend school remotely, with ample evidence that these positions are greatly needed in order for the schools to continue to provide the best education to our students of Litchfield. Technology is only becoming a more integral part of education as time goes on. I echo Dr. Jetty's hopes that the committee will reconsider the vote on Articles 2 and 3. For Article 4, I was very disappointed in the discussion points regarding building a new elementary school. While I appreciate that in the end, this warrant article was recommended by the committee, the discussion was frustrating to listen to. Once again, Superintendent Jetty did a great job explaining that GMS is past its usefulness and beyond repair and renovation. He reiterated that the state of New Hampshire reviewed this building and concluded that they will not ever provide money to the town to renovate it. What more do people need to hear? The school board is taking this issue on with seriousness and responsibility, and yet they're met with constant pushback from various committee members to voting against this warrant article. Overall, the tone that the committee members take with Dr. Jetty in almost every meeting is negative and beyond professional disagreement. Many times I've seen discussions devolve into verbal attacks against superintendent when he's truly trying to do his job and do right by our students of Litchfield. People can have differing views, but they should keep a professional tone during discussion and refrain from making personal attacks. Thank you, Mrs. Dodge on Heron Drive. And I'm just refreshing my email over here to see if anything else has come in, and I don't see anything. Mr. Brown, have you received any calls or additional emails?
I have not.
Okay, thank you. And we'll just turn it over to the public connected this evening for one final round of public input if anyone else has any comments this evening.
And this is Ralph Bohm again. One last comment on that last issue. I spent all day on a education committee hearings today. And one of the things that was discussed was building aid. And right now there are a number of school districts already putting in for building aid for the next 2 or 3 years. So any issue of doing a building, if you want building aid, it's going to have to wait a few years before the state has any building aid. Just want to pass that along.
Thank you, Mr. Bell.
Chairman Cutter, could I also make a comment in regards to Ms. Dodge's email?
Please, Mr. Taylor.
All right, specifically, and I'll read the specific lines. The Budget Committee continues to overreach and nitpick the specifics of how the money will be spent, despite repeatedly saying that they are only responsible for a bottom line budget. I would just like to point out that yes, indeed, I do go through line by line so that way we can have a healthy discussion, and so that way anybody that is trying to understand where I'm looking to reduce, they understand my logic and have the ability to have a conversation. I think over this year, we had some fantastic conversations with both the town and the school regarding specific topics. And that's the better way to go rather than just going ahead and doing a bottom line cut and having everybody vote on it. I'd also like to call out at one point, Mr. Burke had made an accusation that I was looking to cut AP Physics and I did not support AP Physics. That was not the point of that. It is not my role to go ahead and nitpick and make any of those types of claims. I just felt that at this time, with reduced funding coming in, it did not make sense to go ahead and expand the curriculum at this time. So that is the reason why I go through line by line and specifically call it out so we can have those discussions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Taylor.
Mr. Chair, can I make a?
Mr. Leary, please.
Yes. This is going back to the warrant article for the tech integrators. Stated last week, the only reason that I voted against them was because they are affecting the salary lines of people in the school district, both at the teaching level and at the administrative level. And I would have a really hard time believing that anyone would say, yeah, I'll take a pay cut. This has gone through, they said it's been fully supported by the staffs, but it hasn't been. It was done by the associations, but the end users had no idea this was going on. Okay, a couple of the people were absolutely blindsided by it. I have a really hard time voting to cut somebody's salaries, and in one particular case, their benefits out completely, including their retirement that they've been to for 5 years. I mean, how do I look that person in the face and say, yeah, I voted to do this to you? I just can't do that. I am fully ready and willing to support the articles if the school district can fund it a different way. And they have the money in their coffers to be able to fund it. And if they do that, I am ready right now to switch my vote to a yes and support it. And not only that, I will actively go out and pitch for it if they like, but I will not somebody's salaries or benefits. It goes against my beliefs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
If I can
Leary.
respond to Mr. Leary, please.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, go ahead, Mr. Burke.
Thank you. You just expressed the reason you're for the position, but you don't care for the way it's being funded. And that's not really your responsibility. Your responsibility as a budget committee member is to do what's best in town with the funds. What's interesting is in your selectmen meeting on Monday, you just did the exact same thing you said you voted against. You had an individual who was going to go full time. You voted not to have that person go full time, but then to add a part time position. So you just took away from somebody to give to somebody else.
No, we voted to
You voted to take away the full time position.
we pulled the warrant because
No.
we knew it would be passed.
No, right, because we didn't
Let's not get into
support
the semantics, please, right? Let's keep it
Right.
civil. And this is public input, right? Not up for.
I am
debate.
keeping,
If we can keep.
Mr. Chair, I am keeping it simple. But if you look at the reasoning behind Mr. Leary's choice of not supporting this article, both articles, it's not in his purview. He's looking at it totally wrong. You don't look at it because of how it's being funded. And you just said that if it was funded differently, you would support it. It's
Yes.
being funded to save the taxpayers money by shifting monies. Simple as that.
Enough attrition that
Thank
you
you,
could
Mr.
have
Burke.
done this elsewhere. That's what I'm saying.
All right, with that, I'm going to close public input. But before doing so, I do just want to do one final check with Town Administrator Brown to see if anything else has come in.
I'm just checking here one more time. No, there's nothing here in my email, and no phone calls have come in.
Thank you very much. I'm just refreshing on my side here as well, and nothing else on my side has come in. And so with that, I'm going to close public input for now. The Budget Committee does have a regularly scheduled Budget Committee meeting that is going to take place momentarily. You are welcome all to stay on and join the Budget Committee meeting, in which we're going to vote a few remaining, two actually remaining town warrant articles, and go from there. So with that, thank you again for joining this evening. For those who are not interested in staying for the Budget Committee meeting, we appreciate the opportunity to work for the town. And thank you again for joining us tonight. We'll give everyone a moment to disconnect, and then we'll get started with our Budget Committee meeting.